videos with their Intel Center watermark in the same video layer as the Al-Qaeda graphics. Red-handed. So we know these tapes are fake or they're edits of old tapes. Now they've just moved on to completely fake audio tapes. Completely fake. They never even say where they come from. Or they say they found them in a bunker in Afghanistan, or they found them on a message board. Remember the guy who, what was it, in 2004, did the fake beheading tape in San Francisco, and the media ran with it for 2 weeks? We could create a fake beheading video in my office, post it on the web, and the media would say it was real. So think how easy it is for the CIA to do that. Now, we're going to be going over that today because bin Laden has reemerged. That is the fake bin Laden, and is saying he's going to attack us, and they're simultaneously saying, oh, we've got record numbers of people on watch list trying to board planes from Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, and Asia to come here. Absolute hype going on that front. They are clearly launching the preparatory phase and testing the waters, sending up trial balloons to stage new terror attacks to legitimize the faltering, fake, fraudulent wars, the wars of aggression, the genocidal wars, and to try to get Obama's approval rating up, the lowest of any president 1 year into office. He's 1 year and several days now into his 1 year anniversary. And remember, I told you at the time those were fake terror alerts to try to get Bush's approval ratings up. And as soon as it stopped working, as soon as it started failing and his approval rating started dropping, and as soon as the public said, we know this is fake, they came out and said, okay, it is fake, and Governor Ridge has now written a book, the former head of Homeland Security, saying it was all fake. That's another fact that deniers of the reality out there can stick in their pipe and smoke. So that is coming up later in the broadcast. Something even bigger than ClimateGate has now happened. The head of the UN climate program from India has been caught involved in all sorts of huge business deals, shutting down factories and then getting the money to relocate them to India. He has now admitted that scores of reports by the UN on the Himalayan ice melt. The list goes on. I have a giant 2-inch stack just on the latest in ClimateGate. And I told you, ClimateGate was the equivalent of the Boffin spies in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, stealing the Death Star plans, getting the information out to the public, exposing all the previous hockey stick frauds and temperature reading frauds, and Al Gore lying, and Al Gore saying carbon dioxide went up, and then heat goes up when it's actually the opposite. Temperature goes up, and then carbon dioxide goes up. That brought out all the old frauds that you and I knew about, but that the general public didn't know about. Now, Bill Sanders admitting in the mid-'90s they took out 5 scientists in their official report that said, man, it's not affecting climate change, and climate change is natural. That's getting attention, but all this new stuff is coming out. Everything that gets investigated is proven a fraud. Every university that gets investigated that's part of this ring that supplied lies to the UN for the public. I mean, it's a huge stack. They are imploding. So now they've panicked, and they're just coming out like it's no big deal, hidden in plain view, and saying, okay, we made mistakes. The head of the IPCC says, you know what? We did want to make people be concerned about the environment, and so we basically lied. But still, it's for a good cause. I was talking to a reporter last night who was interviewing me for a magazine, and I was talking about ClimateGate and all the fraud. He said, but isn't the environmental movement good? Isn't it all basically for good? And I said, no, it's not for good. It's for grabbing property and land. The environmental movement that the media puts out is the corporate counterfeit of it. Are there real environmentalists that don't like killing all the whales, which many species were almost extinct? Yes. Is there overfishing in many areas? You need to rotate it like crops? Yes. Is genetic engineering, cross species, very dangerous? Yes. Is the government of Russia and the U.S. countless times dumping nuclear reactors in the ocean, toxic waste, you name it. Is that bad? Yes. But the mainline environmental movement you see pushed by the NFL and the media and Fox TV, one of the biggest culprits, it is a land-grabbing, property rights destroying bandwagon that takes the real problems of the environment, problem, reaction, solution, and then gives a false solution. But I wasn't going to get Lord Monckton on until he got back from Australia. He's about to go to Australia. I want to go ahead and put an email into him that I want to just get like a 30-minute update before he goes to Australia, if he hasn't already left, on his speaking tour there, to discuss all these huge new developments and get his expertise on it. He's also talking about he wants to come down to Texas, be in studio with us. He's really a great guy, so I don't want to spoil that event coming up, but I don't know. We can get Dillingpole on from the Telegraph and some other people. I mean, I can obviously talk about it and break it down, but it's good to have their expert voices as well. Let's get the Climate Depot head on. Let's just set some of those up throughout the week, because this is such a big deal. Having the Death Star plans isn't enough. Getting the information out and educating the public and making it a major issue and calling for investigations into all of their fraud and reminding people of all the previous fraud, that was blowing up the Death Star. And it blew up at Copenhagen, and we blew the Death Star up. But we've still got the rest of the Imperial fleet, ladies and gentlemen. Super Star Destroyers, hundreds of Star Destroyers. This is your movie analogy. The Empire is still in our towns, in our cities, but they're now known to be a fraud. They were caught in fraud on their flu hype. They were caught in fraud on their WMDs. They were caught in their fraud with the banker bailout, baiting and switching, saying it was for housing, and then not spending any of it on that and keeping it for themselves. They are losing any credibility they had with the public, and the people are getting more and more mad by the second. Their healthcare fraud, their healthcare hoax, even if you're a socialist or a communist, and that's why it finally is going down in flames, the real collectivists, who I don't agree with, because any collectivism is immoral and ends up always amassing great power in the hands of the government, the corporations that grow up around it, and it creates favoritism, nepotism, corruption. History shows that. Look what's happening now. But even if you're for collectivism, that's why Howard Dean and Dennis Kucinich and others came out and said, this is a giant fraud, this health care is bad, we may need to run somebody against Obama. Because the whole thing cuts Medicare and Medicaid by $40+ billion a year per program. It raises all these taxes, puts you in jail if you don't get the insurance, will shut down more industry. People can't afford this, folks. Many businesses can't afford it. People that have even decent paychecks may not decide they want the health care. Or they may not want the health care government says they have to get. I mean, it's a moral issue of not being slaves to a medical tyranny. And so that hoax is imploding, and they probably won't even get it passed out of Congress now. They've been having this Borg chant of it will pass, you cannot defeat us, it will happen, it's a foregone conclusion. It's not. And so the entire system is in retreat right now, and that's just a few of the issues I mentioned. The problem is the public still doesn't know how bad it really is and isn't aware of all of the enemy operations. If we can educate them about the different frauds and other hoaxes that are still going on, we can beat those. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. People say, what's the solution? States' rights, liberty, teaching the Constitution, Bill of Rights, standing up for yourself, cutting the size of government. But overall, if you educate the people, as Thomas Jefferson said, in the principles of liberty, things will fix themselves. Now, huge news coming up. Stay with us.
For the first time ever, the makers of Alpine Air Foods have approved an incredible sale with savings only available through Ready Made Resources. For a limited time, save 25% off all cases of freeze-dried foods by Alpine Air. Yes, 25% off on case lots only of Alpine Air Foods. Only available at ReadyMadeResources.com. Mix and match as much as you want to best suit your needs. But hurry! This 25% off sale on Alpine Air freeze-dried foods is only until January 30th and only from ReadyMadeResources.com. Quality Alpine Air freeze-dried air-fried foods have a 10-year shelf life and are easy to prepare. Just add water for great-tasting snacks or meals. Remember, this sale on Alpine Air Foods only lasts through January 30th. Hurry, go to ReadyMadeResources.com or call toll-free 1-800-627-3809 and mention GCN to get 25% off per case of Alpine Air Foods with free shipping. That's 800-627-3809 or go to ReadyMadeResources.com. Hurry, sale ends January 30th at Ready Made Resources.
Hundreds of nations have fallen to tyranny in the last century alone. This is our last chance to not relive history.
As we're finishing off this agenda, they'll be pulling the rug from underneath Americans at home.
I have tremendous influence on our president and Congress, and they really are calling the shots.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us as American citizens to pay attention.
Fall of the Republic identifies the enemies of our nation, the criminal offshore cartel, hell-bent on destroying sovereignty, and on its ashes constructing world government.
Tim Geithner, Bernanke, they're arsonists. They're asking for more matches. And the Congress is saying, who do we make the check out to?
Today, it seems like nobody does care. And right now in Washington, D.C., we have seen a fall of the Republic.
Get your copy of Fall of the Republic